Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a Rune and Tarot divination for Thursday, the 26th day of May, 2022. Well, we're getting down to the end of the month, aren't we? Monday for here in the U.S. was Memorial Day, so I'm still going to do a reading, though, that day. Mostly we'll just be continuing to plant stuff and probably this weekend we'll put our corn and our potatoes in, and maybe I'll probably plant some pumpkin seed here probably today or tomorrow, and then I'll get brave and I'll put my zucchini transplants in. And I don't think we're going to have any freezing temperature. Usually around this time we do, but we had it before, so maybe not. I don't know. I have three big fabric like raised bed pots. They're round, and I put my oats in those. Those are surprisingly long lasting. They don't the fabric doesn't seem to break down, and couldn't quite. I mean, the stuff might grow through it, roots might grow through it, but it doesn't seem to break down, which is kind of cool. But anyway, we dug all that stuff out and refurbished the beds, and I've got my oats planted in them. Oats are great. I mean, I've done oat seed tincture. I have some of that, and but typically I use them in teas. But just because oatmeal is comfort food, right? Well, there's a reason for that because oats are considered a nervine or a nervous system herb, and so you put it in you add it as part of your tea blends. It tends to soothe the nerve endings and all of that. If you're under stress, it's a really good thing to add to your teas. So. And we're all under stress these days. I don't know, the shooting that happened at the school, and the odd stuff that's coming out about it now in terms of response to it. And I don't know. I don't know. We may find out some things that are gonna astonish us again. I don't know how much more taken aback we can all be. I think we're all pretty well taken aback, don't you? By all the things that seem to want to happen here. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go ahead and start with, let me move this out of the way so I get my mouse and my keyboard out of the way. Let's go ahead and start with the Thursday's esoteric influences from the post on the blog. Now, that's all ready to go. I'm going to proofread it one more time, and then I'll get it scheduled to be posted Saturday night. It also goes out in the newsletter if you want to sign up for that. That's over on the left side panel of the blog at Stepping Aside. The web address is imsteppingaside.com. You can scroll down under Show More here under the video, and you can find it. Got to go past a little section where I talk about what this whole thing is that I'm doing here. But beyond that, if you go past that, then you'll see some links, and the web address is there too, so you can get it there. But that, along with some other stuff I do regularly, all goes up on Saturday nights, so be prepared for that. But for today, we have a 26 reduces to 8, so we have a 8 numerology, which is leadership, it's material recognition and approval. It also means strength. Sometimes it can mean harmony, greater harmony, though. It's almost like you look at the even numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8, and 10. You look at progressive amounts of harmony, where it's more individual between you and someone else, or polarity wise with the 2, and progressively it just gets more, right? So you can put harmony in with that as well. The rune for today is Alyes, which means elk or protection, or the bridge between physical and higher awareness. It can also mean higher consciousness. It's like raising your arms in supplication to spirit. Tristitious is the Geomancy rune. Now that's sadness, grief, sorrow, condemnation, protection. It's secretive. It could mean grudges are in play, quick temper, all of that. It's considered one of the evil Geomancy runes by geomancers of old. I say it. I put it in the description of it, but I don't really look at it that way. It's more ego focus that's drawing you there, maybe with Tristitia. Let's see, the sun's in Gemini, the moon's in Aries until it travels into Taurus tonight at 11:23 p.m. Planetary governance for those working magic today is Jupiter, of course. Jupiter governs Thursday. So recognition for your efforts is possible today, signaling that others believe you have the ability to be a great leader. However, to make the most of that opportunity, you also need to learn how to both give and receive support, as well as to assert yourself with patience and integrity. Overly identifying with the past can leave you unable to process the changes necessary to succeed, and it might be best to take time to contemplate your current situation to determine if you've gone as far as you can go and if a new direction is what's needed. And finally, respect the contribution that others offer and acknowledge the experience they bring to the table today. So let's get rid of that so we don't have to look at that. Well, I don't want to cover that up. Let me bring that. Well, here, I'll do this. There, that works. Negotiating my screen here. Let's take a look at the rune for today. If this is your first time here, welcome. Appreciate you coming by. Hope you'll click subscribe and come back. I noticed we had a new subscriber. I get a little notification up on my screen here when for things like that, other things too, but for new subscribers to the blog or to the YouTube page, YouTube channel, we have one of the Norn runes, Hagalaz, for today. Now, Hagalaz is known as the witch rune. There's 3 Norn runes. The Norns were the goddesses or deities or beings that gave or reportedly gave Odin the runes to enlighten him as he hung upside down the world tree, sacrificed an eye. If you look in the lore, it's sacrificing himself to himself. That means he took out an eye. Anyway, so that's why he wore a patch. But he did that as he hung upside down from the world tree for 9 days. Is the legend. To gain enlightenment, and there were the Norns standing there saying, "Okay, here's some runes for you to make you understand what you don't understand," and so he needed higher awareness, basically, and blessings from spirit. And since I look at runes as a language of spirit, I know they've been co-opted into some pretty nefarious things, but that isn't what they are, and so stop it. Anyway. Hagalaz is the witch rune. It represents the past. Isa represents the static realm or the present moment, and Nathiz represents the future. Those are the 3 Norn runes. I give them more weight out of the 24 Elder Futhark runes than the others, simply because of who they represent. But we're talking about transformation within a fixed framework. We're talking about change and change in perception. So how will you manifest change today? How will you transform your perceptions in a way that maintain your basic values and principles? Maintain. It's not like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's not like massive change like the Tower card is, for example. But it's transformation in awareness, higher awareness, realizing that higher awareness is there to guide you, maybe. Let's take a look at we'll discover the Geomancy rune next here. And with that, I'm going to throw down 3 elemental runes. It has a single dot on one side. That's an active principle. The 2 dots on the other signifies a passive influence. So we're looking at essentially polarities here. And then from there, we arrange whatever turns up when I throw them down. I'm going to arrange them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. And we'll create the rune for today. Let's see. So 2 for fire, 1 for air, 1 for water rather, and 1 for earth. So we're looking at Caput Draconis. So new beginnings. It's gonna align very well with. I think this is Caput here. No, that's Kata. The 2 Draconi, Caput and Kata. Caput is governed by the north node of the moon, so we're talking about the future. Kata would be governed by the south node, so that's the past life, karma, all of the things that can come in and help us learn and guide us toward the future. But this is Caput Draconis. So if we're talking new beginnings or being on the threshold of something new, I think that aligns very well with the inner transformation that Hagalaz can provide. So let's see what the cards have to say. I've already shuffled them. We'll just do a little bit more here. And I'm dropping them here. We'll lay down 3 cards and see what we come up with. If we need more, we'll take them. Usually I don't do any more than 5. Typically I'll do just 4, but we'll see. Well, we have the 8 of Swords. We have the Hermit, which is the 9th card of the Major Arcana. So, and then we have the 10 of Pentacles. So we have air and earth represented. Pentacles is about the physical realm, everything about the physical realm, our home, our work, our tradition, our family, it can be loyalty, it can be foundation, the physicality of the body, all of that. And then the air element is about perception. It's about the mental faculties. It's balance, it's justice, it's fairness, truth, cutting through deception. And then the Hermit, of course, is as a major arcana card. That's a soul archetype card. So let's see. So we've got 9 and 8 and 1 is 9. 10 reduces to 1. So 9 and 9 is 18. So that's 9 overall numerology here. So ending is completion, spirituality, generosity. So again, we're already talking about a higher level of perception here. Again, aligning well with Hagalaz and Caput Draconis. So let's take a look at the first card. We have the 8 of Swords. Here we have a woman standing on wet, soppy sand. You can see the castle up here on the higher level on the mountain there, or hill or whatever. We're down here though, but it's up above anyway, the ocean. And she's standing barefoot in wet, soppy sand. She's wearing a reddish orange gown. She's bound. She's blindfolded. You see 8 swords surrounding her. This one seems to be a little bit further removed from the others, but they kind of encircle partway anyway, her. Now, if we think in terms of the 8 as strength, and forget about the material recognition and approval. Well, I mean, that could be part of it, though, couldn't it? Others are deciding that they need to have her. She needs to gain the approval of other people, maybe, and she doesn't want to do that. But basically, we'll look at this in terms of strength. The strength to go within and to turn off the noise of everything, turn off the emotion. You see the water below, that's going to be the water element, so that's emotion. The sky is kind of grayish here. But she doesn't need to see any of that, does she? She's either bound by her own perception or or others are trying to bind her as well. And what she's doing is she's getting away from that. She's turning her back to emotion. She's turning her back to the noise around her, and she's trying to essentially with Hagalaz as an alignment there. She's trying to transform her perceptions into something else that's maybe a little more realistic. There's just too much going on. Maybe she's bought into other outside perceptions, outside ideas that really aren't serving her well. And so she's basically just saying, look, I gotta turn away from all of it. She's even turning her back to the kingdom. She's turning back to her home. She's turning her back to everything, and she's going within. She's blindfolded. She's bound, because she's bound by her own perceptions or her own choices, her own decisions, and she's trying to figure out, maybe that's not such a good idea. Maybe there needs to be some kind of a breakthrough that can only happen from the inner work that I need to do. So you see. Now, that aligns well then with the Hermit. So whereas she's, staying put on the ground, and even though it's wet, soppy sand, because you can see the water throughout and all that, you can here he's getting away from it all. He's going up high. You can see the snow up here. He's actually up on a peak. He's holding a staff in one hand, and he's holding a lighted lantern lit by a Merkaba. Now, Merkaba is the soul vehicle. So right there, that tells you that he's getting up above. He's gaining higher awareness. Again, 9 signifies spirituality. So we're looking at a man who's looking down, a shaman, a druid, a priest, who's looking down on creation, essentially, trying to gain enlightenment, but at the same time withdrawing so that he can do that. But at the same time, using that soul experience to light the world, essentially, to bring light to the world, and to light to our experiences. But the light is not derived from ego; it's derived from spirit, from the soul. It's almost like these cards can be looked at in tandem as the as above, so below side of things. I got a little glare from I'm not sure where it's coming from. Well, it might be coming from that light over there. But anyway, it's like this is the above side and this is the below side. You've got the noise of your personal life, right? That comes in and you can't see the forest for the trees, basically. And so you have to get away from it. He's choosing to get away from it by going higher. She's kind of staying within the whole thing and trying to figure out what she needs to do. But the thing is you don't have to necessarily go up on a peak to do that, the way the hermit is suggesting. You can literally go within and let go of everything that's going on around you, let go of perceptions that no longer serve, and start over by going within in meditation. And I mean, obviously she's doing it, in sort of a extreme way here, but in a sense that's what she's doing. She's got the inner strength to go within and try to evaluate, what about my life, what about my perceptions are keeping me stuck, keeping me bound to a particular thing that is not serving me well. You can look at what happened with the children, and the 18-year-old that came in and did what he did. Now, of course, there's going to be all of the conversation, all of the, this, that say, no, you can't put any restrictions on guns. No, you can't do that. You have to. You had one congressman want to introduce, want to take even more restrictions away, basically, and put more guns out there. And then you have people that say, no, that's not the answer, you see. So it's that struggle, right, to let go of perceptions that are clearly enabling more of this to happen. That state relaxed gun laws even more. You don't need anything. You can just go buy them. You can be 18 and go buy one of those AR-15 things. Well, in my opinion, that's not a good idea. I think the assault weapons ban was fine, but that's my opinion. Other people are going to disagree with that, right? But now it's like we have to consider, can we not consider the children and what's happening to our children, having to go through all these drills that they have to go through. I was reading what parents were saying and what teachers were saying about what that's like for kids and what they do during them. It's horrifying. And so, just using that alone, maybe we are, the Eight of Swords is saying we're bound by a particular, or at least a group of people are bound by a particular perception that then harms ultimately, or at least paves the way, opens the way up for harm. And so there would be an example of where you might have had enough and you've gone as far as you're going to go, and now you're going to rethink things. And maybe say, well, wait a minute. It's not that you can't have something to protect yourself, but what are we really doing here? And I believe Senator, is he a senator? I can't think if he's from Connecticut, said that. What are we doing here? What is this, that we allow this? So that could be something like that, where it really takes inner strength to go within and say, look, and that's just an example. It could be anything at all, really. it's just an example, though, of going within and reevaluating how you see things. And are your perceptions really getting you to the place you need to be, or do you need some higher awareness with the hermit to come in and guide your thoughts, guide your reactions, guide your responses, guide your perceptions, or are you simply getting it from ego and this sense of entitlement or sense of whatever, that's keeping you stuck in one particular line of perception? Is it coming from, are you, or is it coming from other people that you're buying into that, and you find yourself caught up, and it's like suddenly you've got to say, stop. I have to stop now. I have to think for myself. It could be that with the Eight of Swords. But then the hermit comes in and says, well, really, you have the answers you need. You just need to get away from and withdraw from whatever is going on and let that transformation happen. And that aligns very well with both Hagalaz and Caput Draconis today. So, because when you do, you see the Kabbalistic tree of life there. The 10 coins or pentacles are arranged in that. It's an interesting experience. It basically shows the soul's movement through life, and all the things that you're to learn in form, to remember, I should say, really, because you already know it as a soul. But you need to express all this in physical form, which is a little bit harder. Because you forget, when you come into this world, that you are a soul. Well, I think when you're a baby, and when you're super young. But then as time goes on, environmental things, life, parents, whatever, they kind of shape some of that the way they do. And so maybe there's some forgetting that goes on. Although I think with today's children, you're seeing more soul awareness in them than, and it's staying with them. It's not going away. I was outside most of yesterday, and I'm paying for it with the pollen. But here we have the 10, which reduces to 1. You can also leave it as a 10. 10 can be about endings and completion as well. Also new beginnings if you reduce it to 1. But basically, and I've shown this before, I'll do it again. If you take the Roman numeral 10 and you terminate the ends, here's the Roman numeral 10. It's an X, as we know. But if you do this, you have Dagaz, which is the end of one phase and the beginning of another. It's a new day. So whenever I draw a 10 card, it's like, okay, we've got that sort of energy happening. And you can see it. Look at that archway there. It looks like the young people that are there are just either under or just beyond the archway. They've come to visit the older man here, so these are probably the kids or the son and the daughter-in-law, or the son-in-law and daughter, however you want to see that. His dogs are here by his side. You see all this abundance. You can see grapes, which always indicates abundance. You see the checkerboard here, and that's the polarity. That's how I see it anyway. It's polarity. The receptive and projective side of self. It's the and you see it in a progressive fashion there. So there was a lot that was learned by this man, because it's right behind him. You see the family crests on the archway there, and you see the home or the town or whatever behind it in the background here. This is about legacy and the passage of legacy, or the passing of legacy from the older man to the younger people. Excuse me. So if you are learning here with the 8, you have the strength to let go of perceptions that no longer serve, and to reestablish something that makes more sense from a higher perspective. All of that lends itself to what these two can learn from him. right? If they're willing to listen, you know. sometimes they don't, you know. They're like, "Oh, I know what's best." Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But you can always learn from the elders in your community or the elders in your family, because you know they've been through it. They already know. You still have to figure it out yourself, but you know, to pay respect to the elders in your life is always a good thing. But here he's got his abundance, and he's all around him, and his dogs are there, and it's like his life is complete, and now he's ready to see the transition to someone else, because you know this one here will likely, or the two of them together will at some point be the patriarchs or the elders of the family, and then it will be them sitting here and their children here that they're passing the legacy off onto. Tradition, it's the ancestral heritage. You could go even higher and say the Akashic record of your life, handed down to others that are younger than you are. But it's that passage. You can also think of it as the passage or transmutation of ego into spirit. The realization that we are in fact souls inhabiting these bodies, that the body itself is, it could be anything, right? It could be any body at all. We made the choice before coming here what we would do and who we would be and how we would do that. And then it all plays out interactively with other souls that have done the same thing. So we could be part of somebody else's learning experience. They could be part of ours. We populate our experience that way. And you could say. But with the 9 energy, you know, you're looking at, for the 9 numerology or energy for the reading, you're looking at endings and completion. So it's like we've completed one thing, and now we're going to transform our perceptions into something else and have a new beginning, if you will, on the threshold. So there's this feeling of being on the threshold of something new. If we're willing to take a step back, both in terms of ego and higher awareness, and say, look, I've got to see this from a different perspective. And I only use the situation that happened, the tragedy that happened the other day with the children, as a big thing that's happened, that everybody knows about, and everybody, it can kind of resonate, that whole idea, just to not saying that it's something that big that happened and that profound and that tragic. It could be just you've been going along a certain way, and it's like, you know what, this isn't working for me. It could be something a little more less society wide. Basically, it's just in your own personal life. There could just be some things where I'm not seeing things right here, and I need to think about it a little differently. So you get out away from it all, both in terms of the ego. You let go of that. You transmute. You give ego. In other words, to transmute ego into spirit, you give ego no attention. You focus only your attention on matters of spirit and thoughts of spirit. And then the ego's like, where'd she go? Well, she raised her vibration higher, and if you want to get there, you're going to have to do the same. And so it melds itself into that, and higher awareness becomes where you function from. You understand the bigger picture. You understand how the lower vibrational energies don't serve anyone, other than to show you that they don't serve anyone. They at least serve that purpose, where you can make that distinction. Because I think it feels to me like right now we're really in this spiritual battle within, of who are we, where do we place our awareness? Is it always about me and what I want and what I feel entitled to, or is there a bigger way of looking at things? Overall, can you see things? Can you step back and observe the situation and see it from a higher perspective? one that is inclusive of everybody, that recognizes the value of life, that recognizes the value of integrity, and to care about others, to not see others as others, but to see them as a brother or a sister, to see them as family, to see them as the self and the other side of self, basically. If we are indeed expressions of the Creator, as I believe we are, then we are populating our experience the way we need to have it, so that we learn certain things, so that we absorb certain things, and bring then that back to the collective consciousness. So if that's what we're doing, then everything that you it's the self and the other side of self. Everything else is the other side of self. If you see it that way, then instead of thinking of it in terms of us versus them, that whole experience, which basically is predicated upon separation and division, you see it as a unified wholeness, which is what it truly is, at least in my opinion. And then in the end, you complete the you go through all of the little areas of the tree of life in terms of gaining final awareness, and understanding that this is what we're doing here is an expression of spirit. It's an expression of the soul. It's an expression of the Creator. If we can think of it from that standpoint, excuse me, it softens our perceptions. It allows love to come in. Right now, it just doesn't feel like there's any love that's there. It's people wanting to survive a pandemic, other people who say, no, there's no pandemic. It's that kind of dichotomy that's going on. And we seem to play out that whole thing irrespective of what it is. It's always this tension, this pull away from the fundamental higher truth that we should be learning. Instead, we're just rock solid, and it's got to be this, it's got to be that. There's no wiggle room. And I think that from a soul perspective, if we can understand it, that, okay, this is something that's playing out, but do we need to really play it out? Can't we just know that? Can't we just simply know what we really know is true? And again, it takes, with the Eight of Swords, it takes getting out of the self, basically, getting out of the mind, and going into spirit with the Hermit, so that then you have this fulfillment and being able to share that legacy with other people. So, transform your lives. You can do it. Thanks for watching. And do have a good weekend. Oh my goodness, I have some updates that came up. It's like, no, I don't want to talk about that right now. It's blocking my screen. But anyway, have a good weekend and plant something. Even if you can't plant seeds, you can plant other kinds of seeds, maybe, of higher consciousness, of higher awareness, and see where that takes you. See the life you can create with it, and the life you can build with it. Walk across that threshold into something new. And come back on Monday, because I'm going to be here. I promise. And come back for another edition of As Above, So Below. Look for all the stuff on the blog to come up, as I said, on Saturday nights, and see what's over there. You can follow me on Patreon for a little expanded version of the correspondences for the day if you work magic. And because you'll see some recommendations there that you don't see anyplace else, and so you can do that there. Or you can go and look at the stuff I write on Medium. There's a version of the correspondences over there that's a little more streamlined, but it's all there. And then there's also a different form of esoteric influences there on Medium. So anyhow, thanks for watching, and let's talk again soon. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.